Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to enjoy your life and become who God created you to be. If you truly want a positive change in your life, don't just listen, take action. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you can receive more inspiring messages. There's a storm raging outside. The world is noisy, chaotic, and fast. But the real battle is the one inside you. Can you stay still when life shakes you? Can you stay calm when everything screams at you to panic? Let me tell you something. Power isn't in reacting, it's in remaining calm. And today, I'm going to show you how to stay calm like a monk. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to remain steady in the midst of chaos. Many people confuse calmness with passivity, assuming that those who stay silent or still are weak or afraid. But in truth, peace is a form of strength. The kind that doesn't need to shout or prove anything. True calmness is not found in people who have never faced storms. It is found in those who have walked through the fire and refused to let the fire get inside. Just as a warrior sharpens his sword before battle, the wise man strengthens his inner peace before the trials begin. In a world filled with shouting, violence, and constant pressure to perform, the individual who remains calm stands out like a lighthouse in a raging sea. This calmness is not laziness, and it is not surrender. It is self-mastery. When you stay calm, you show that you are not controlled by your surroundings. You are led by something deeper inside you. That depth is power. The monk who sits silently in a room full of noise is not powerless. He is rooted. He knows that the most important war is not outside him. It's the war over his mind, his emotions, and his reactions. When you are calm, your perception shifts. You stop seeing every disagreement as a threat. You stop viewing every inconvenience as a crisis. Instead, you begin to see clearly. You begin to think from a place of wisdom, not fear. Calmness allows you to take a breath before responding, to choose your words with grace, and to act with intentionality. This is why peaceful people often appear wise beyond their years, because they refuse to be pulled into emotional whirlwind. They move with purpose, not panic. There is a kind of power that comes from understanding yourself, from knowing your limits, from being able to sit quietly with your thoughts. It's the power of self-restraint, the power to walk away when provoked, the power to stay seated when the world tells you to rush. In moments when everything is falling apart, calmness becomes your shield. It keeps your vision clear and your heart steady. It gives you the ability to hear the whisper of truth in a world screaming with lies. Most people don't understand how powerful peace really is because they've never practiced it. They've never trained themselves to breathe when they're angry, to stay silent when they're hurt, to listen when they feel the need to defend. But once you start to live from a place of calm, everything begins to change. You no longer waste energy on battles that don't matter. You stop being manipulated by fear, anxiety, or public opinion. You begin to lead, not by force, but by example. You influence not by control, but by presence. And in that presence is a quiet, unshakable power. Peace, real peace, becomes the foundation that supports everything else. In a world obsessed with volume, silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. People equate loudness with leadership, noise with knowledge, and visibility with value. But some of the most powerful voices in history were not the ones that shouted the loudest. They were the ones that spoke with quiet conviction, or sometimes said nothing at all. Silence, when chosen with purpose, speaks louder than all the clamor of an anxious world. It is not an absence, it is a presence. It holds weight, it holds intention, and it demands attention without ever raising its voice. When you walk into a room and stay silent, people notice, not because you are passive or disengaged, but because your stillness creates contrast. In a culture where everyone feels the need to give an opinion, to argue, to be seen, your silence becomes a statement. It tells the world, I don't need to compete with chaos. I am anchored. Silence is not the void, it is the fullness of discipline. It's the choice to listen more than you speak, to observe more than you react. It's the act of tuning in, not checking out. Monks have long known the power of silence. In monasteries across the world, entire days are dedicated to silence, not as punishment, but as preparation. They use it to reconnect with their thoughts, to quiet the inner noise that distracts from truth. Because while the world screams for attention, silence opens the door to clarity. It allows your spirit to breathe, to reflect, to hear the voice within that often gets drowned out by external distraction. The deeper your silence, the louder your inner wisdom becomes. Most people fear silence because it confronts them. It strips away the noise they used to hide behind. In silence, you come face to face with your own thoughts, your own doubts, your own insecurities. And yet, it is in that very space that growth happens. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking. You begin to see where your fear controls you. You begin to discern what actually matters. This is why silence is not just about external quiet, it is about internal order. It calms the emotional storms and allows the truth to rise to the surface. People often speak out of anxiety, out of fear, or out of the desperate need to be validated. But when you learn the art of silence, you stop being pulled into every argument. You stop reacting to every insult. You realize that not every comment deserves a reply. Not every challenge requires your involvement. In this way, silence becomes your armor. It protects your energy. It guards your peace. And it allows you to conserve your power for the moments that truly matter. When you hold your silence with strength and intention, it doesn't create distance, it creates depths. People begin to lean in, wondering what you're thinking, sensing that there is something deeper within you. And they're right, because silence is not empty. It's full of the kind of strength the world rarely understands, but always respects. There is a vast difference between reacting and responding, and that difference can define the direction of your entire life. Reaction is immediate, impulsive, and often emotional. It comes from a place of survival, where instinct overrides intention. On the other hand, response is deliberate, thoughtful, and rooted in wisdom. It requires pause, it requires presence, and most importantly, it requires purpose. In moments of pressure, when everything in you wants to lash out or defend yourself, the power lies in choosing to respond instead of react. Reactions are often based on past wounds. They come from unhealed places, from triggers that bypass logic and dive straight into emotion. When someone insults you, it's easy to react with anger. When plans fall apart, it's easy to panic. When someone disappoints you, it's easy to shut down. But those reactions rarely serve your highest self. They often lead to regret, to damaged relationships, to choices you wish you could take back. A reaction may feel good in the moment, but it often leaves behind a trail of brokenness. A response, however, builds something. It moves you forward. It reflects self-control and clarity. Learning to respond with purpose means you must slow down the moment between the stimulus and the action. That tiny space is where growth happens. That space is where the calm person breathes, assesses, and chooses the right path. Instead of yelling back, they speak with composure. Instead of quitting in frustration, they adapt with strategy. Instead of blaming others, they take responsibility and lead with integrity. That is the power of a purposeful response. It may take longer, but it always takes you further. There's a deep strength in choosing not to be governed by emotion. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you don't let those feelings make your decisions for you. You acknowledge them, you process them, but then you rise above them to act from a place of alignment with your values. This is especially important when you're in a position of influence. Your reaction might be someone else's example. What you say or do in a tense moment can either inspire others to rise or give them permission to fall. When you respond with purpose, you are no longer a puppet of circumstance. You become the author of your actions. People notice this kind of poise. They recognize the discipline it takes to hold your peace, to think before speaking, to act with long-term vision instead of short-term emotion. You earn respect, not just for what you say, but for what you choose not to say. Your calm becomes contagious. Your presence becomes a source of stability in an unstable world. This practice of responding instead of reacting is not easy. It requires consistent self-awareness and daily discipline. It demands that you reflect, pray, and prepare before the storms come. But the reward is enormous. It gives you the ability to lead yourself. And once you can do that, you're ready to lead others. Not by force, but by example. Not with noise, but with quiet strength. Your mind is the command center of your life. Every decision you make, every emotion you feel, every action you take, it all starts in the mind. That is why it must be guarded with the same seriousness and reverence as a sacred temple. What you allow into your thoughts will eventually take root in your heart, and what takes root in your heart will manifest in your actions, relationships, and ultimately your destiny. Most people live their lives carelessly when it comes to their mental environment. They consume negativity, feed on fear, and allow their minds to be filled with anxiety, comparison, and distraction, without realizing the damage it causes over time. Guarding your mind doesn't mean shutting out the world or living in denial. It means becoming intentional about what influences you. Just as a temple has boundaries, certain places where only purity is allowed, your mind needs the same kind of sacred protection. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every news headline deserves your energy. Not every criticism deserves your mental replay. There is power in discernment. Power in choosing what thoughts are worth keeping and which ones must be rejected immediately. Because every thought is a seed. If you let a seed of fear sit too long, it grows into anxiety. If you let a seed of resentment linger, it turns into bitterness. But if you plant seeds of truth, hope, and love, your life begins to bloom with peace and purpose. We often talk about physical health, what we eat, how we exercise, but mental health begins with mental discipline. You must feed your mind with what is good, noble, and uplifting. Read things that challenge you to grow. Listen to voices that lift your spirit instead of draining your soul. Spend time in silence, reflecting and renewing your perspective. The monk doesn't guard his mind out of fear. He does it out of honor. He understands that his peace is precious and that his purpose is too valuable to be contaminated by the world's noise. Temptation, doubt, and negativity will always knock at the door of your mind. You don't have control over what knocks, but you do have control over what you let in. That's where discipline begins. The moment you recognize a thought that is not aligned with your higher calling, you must reject it. You must replace lies with truth, fear with faith, and confusion with clarity. This isn't a one-time act. It's a daily battle. A monk guards his temple every day, not just when danger is visible. Likewise, you must stay vigilant over your mind even in peaceful seasons, because the thoughts you tolerate today become the attitudes you live with tomorrow. When you guard your mind like a temple, you don't just protect yourself, you preserve your ability to stay calm, to stay focused, and to lead with strength. You create space for wisdom to grow. You become a vessel of peace in a chaotic world. And people begin to feel the difference in your presence, not because you speak loudly, but because your inner stillness radiates strength. Inner peace is not something you stumble upon by accident. It is something you build, shape, and protect through daily discipline. Just as an athlete trains his body to perform at the highest level, a person who desires peace must train their spirit to remain calm in every storm. This training doesn't happen only when things go wrong. It must happen every day, in the quiet, in the ordinary, and even when things seem fine. Because the truth is, the calm you build in private becomes the strength you carry in public. Inner peace is not a gift. It is a skill developed through consistent practice and deep intention. Training in peace begins the moment you wake up, before the noise of the world creeps in, before the demands of the day take hold. There is a sacred opportunity to anchor yourself. Some use prayer, others use meditation, journaling, or silence. What matters most is the decision to begin the day from the inside out, not the outside in. When you start your day with alignment, you are less likely to be pulled apart by distractions or setbacks. You are not just reacting to life, you are directing your response to it. Each quiet moment spent centering your thoughts is like sharpening a blade. It prepares you for the battles you didn't see coming. But this training goes beyond the early morning hours. Throughout the day, life presents small tests. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker criticizes you. Plans change. People disappoint. These moments are not just frustrations, they are opportunities. Each one is a chance to either fall into chaos or rise in calm. Training in inner peace means learning to recognize these moments as part of the process, not interruptions to it. It means choosing not to give away your power to every irritation. It means breathing when others are shouting, pausing when others are rushing, and listening deeply when others are quick to speak. The more you practice peace, the stronger it becomes. At first, it may feel like effort. You may slip into old patterns of anger, worry, or self-doubt. But over time, those patterns lose their grip. You begin to see that your peace is not dependent on your circumstances, but on your choices. And the more you choose peace, the more natural it becomes. Like a muscle that grows stronger with use, your inner calm begins to carry you. You stop looking for external validation and start living from internal stability. This training never ends. Life will always present challenges, but with daily practice, you become less shaken by them. You stop being a slave to your emotions and start becoming a master of your responses. Your presence becomes a shelter for others, not because you have no problems, but because you've learned how to remain steady in the face of them. That kind of peace is rare. That kind of peace is powerful, and it is available to anyone willing to train for it every single day. True calm is not silent surrender. It is active presence. When a person walks into a room radiating peace, the atmosphere shifts. Conversations soften, tempers ease, and tensions begin to melt away. This is not magic or manipulation. It is the result of a life trained in stillness and anchored in purpose. Calm is contagious. Just as anxiety spreads quickly in a room, so does composure. When you carry true calm within you, you don't need to demand authority or control people's reactions. Your presence alone becomes the standard. Others begin to mirror the stillness you model. They sense the steadiness, the groundedness, and the quiet strength, and something in them instinctively begins to align. People are often taught to lead with charisma, confidence, and control. But one of the most overlooked forms of leadership is calm. A leader who stays steady when things fall apart becomes a lighthouse for others. In crisis, most people either react in fear or freeze in confusion. But a calm person sees clearly, speaks wisely, and moves deliberately. That kind of presence doesn't shout or demand. It draws people in. It reminds others that peace is possible even in pressure. It signals that chaos doesn't get to decide the outcome. When you let your calm speak louder than your emotions, you become an anchor in the storm. This kind of calm is not arrogance or apathy. It's not pretending things are okay when they're not. It's the result of deep inner work, of choosing to remain unshaken by things outside your control. You've done the work of knowing who you are and what matters most. You've practiced stillness until it becomes a natural part of how you respond to life. That inner peace becomes your compass. It guides your tone, your timing, and your presence. People don't always remember what you say, but they always remember how you made them feel. And when your calm changes the room, they leave better than they came. Letting your calm change the room means choosing to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. A thermometer only reflects the temperature. A thermostat sets it. You don't absorb the energy of every space, you influence it. You carry peace into conflict, patience into delay, wisdom into confusion. You walk in not to dominate, but to lift. You speak not to impress, but to build. You listen 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 not to impress, but to build. This is where real influence is born, in the subtle strength of presence that doesn't need to overpower to be effective. People are drawn to calm because deep down they're tired of the noise. They're weary of the rush, the tension, and the constant striving. Your calm becomes a sanctuary. It gives others permission to exhale. It shows them another way, a better way. And in that moment, you don't just change the room. You begin to change lives. Not with speeches or slogans, but with your unwavering peace. Because calm is not passive, it is powerful. And those who carry it carry the ability to transform whatever space they intend. In a world that constantly pulls us in every direction, where noise often drowns out clarity and pressure clouds our purpose, the call to remain calm is not just wise, it is essential. Calm is not weakness, it is strength under control. It is the quiet confidence that refuses to be shaken by chaos. It is the deliberate choice to be still when the world demands hurry, to be gentle when others choose rage, and to stand firm when everything around you wavers. The peace you cultivate within you is not just for you, it becomes a gift to those around you. When your soul is anchored, your decisions become clearer, your relationships deeper, and your impact greater. This is the power of staying calm like a monk. Not to escape the world, but to engage it with deeper wisdom and unwavering grace. Let the storms rage, let the noise rise, but within you, let there be stillness. Because the person who has mastered the art of calm is not just surviving life, they are shaping it. And the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more calm. The kind that steadies heart, clears minds, and quietly changes everything it touches. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, that voice of hope. Your support helps us reach more people who need a little extra motivation.